um, a new way that you want to present your lessons, or a challenge that you're facing with classroom management, and you say it would be so nice to have a tool for this, but you don't even know if the tool exists, let alone if it's the right tool for you. So that's the first question. Does a tool exist for this? If there is a tool for it, which tool is the best? Because often there's multiple choices. You can have 5 or 6 or 100 different possibilities that all claim to do what you need, but the question is, do they actually do the job for you? And then the last one is, once you select a tool, how do you use this tool in your classroom? How can it enhance your instruction? You have to learn the tool. The problem that I faced, and I noticed a lot of teachers were facing, was they had trouble finding the right tool and then learning how to use it. And if you are trying to find the right tools, and you have to try this one out, and you have all these different tools, you have to try out 5 or 6 of them, and that's a lot of time that teachers just don't have to put into exploring technology. So my hope with this is that you'll find some tools that you can use, some tricks within those tools that you'll learn a little bit more of how to use them. You may be familiar with most or all of these, or they may all be new to you. I know I sent out the survey, and there was a wide range of experience and interest in the different technologies. So I hope that these different tools are useful to you. So once you've started to use some of those tools, you end up with what I call your teacher toolbox, or your teacher utility belt. You're going to have multiple options for every scenario. You may realize that this tool works best for this situation, and this tool works best for a different situation. So some of the tools that I've collected over the years in my utility belt include GoGuardian, Google, MobyMax, Office 365. There's a wide range of tools out there. So I'm going to share some of them with you today. And I hope that you can add some to your, I hope that then you can add some to your toolbox as well. All right, so the first one on the list is Google Classroom. It's a learning management system. Pretty much everyone has heard about it. Some have used it, and we're just going to go through some of the features and some that you may not know, even if you have been using it. They're always changing Google Classroom. I think they've gone through 5 or 6 iterations since I started using it. Each time they do it, it gets a little bit better. Sometimes it gets a little worse. There's features that they change, and they think this is a great idea, but it actually ends up taking something away. And the great part is that Google is very open to hearing what teachers have to say. So if you reach out to them and you say, hey, I'd really like this feature to come back, or what about this? We'd really like to do that. They're very quick to put those features in. So I'd like to open up our Google Classroom here. I have some students in it already. If you haven't been able to join the classroom yet, the Google Class code is UFTYPUC. So you can, if you have an account that's able to join the Google Classroom, I would recommend joining this one. I'm going to put a lot of materials on here, and we'll be able to see some of them happening live with this class. So if you don't have this code yet, I'm going to go ahead and paste it into the chat, and then we can move on from here. So if you join, you'll go to classroom.google.com. You may have to sign in with a different Google account. I don't know if you received the survey that I sent out about the Google Classroom invite, but that had information about how your domain may not be able to connect to other classrooms outside of it. That's to protect the students from joining or getting invites into classrooms that aren't actually from your school. So if your school is one of them that doesn't allow Google Classroom outside your domain, then you may have to sign into a different Google Classroom in order to sign up. So you're going to go to classroom.google.com, and you're going to click the plus sign for join a new class. So I'll show you what that looks like here. There it is. All right, I'm pasting the code into the chat right now. You should be able to go to classroom.google.com. All right, and all right, this is just a tip along the way. If you aren't familiar with incognito windows, these are a great way to test and see what it's going to be like for your students or someone coming from outside a Google account. It takes out all the cookies, all the sign-ins, everything, and it's just like you're a fresh user on a fresh browser. And so I can go to classroom.google.com, and even though I'm signed into my G Suite account on the other one, I'm not signed into anything at the moment. So it will have me sign in, and from there I can join a class. Now for a student, it's going to look like this. All right, so some of you may have received an invitation from me. It would have looked like this. Classroom.google.com, Tech to Save Your Sanity Classroom, join. If you click the join code, it's going to ask you which account you wanted to join with. It only works once. So once that classroom link has been used to join the classroom, the students can't share it with other people to join the classroom as well. So it's one per student. So what they have is, this is your classroom once you're signed in, and you can click the plus sign and you click join class, and you're going to enter your class code there. So if you have the class code from the chat, UFTYPUC, that's going to go right here, and you're going to join the classroom, and then you'll be able to see some of the resources that are posted. All right, I'm going to go back to my screen here. All right, so the other way that you invite students is under people, and you can see who is in your classroom, and then you can also add new students to your classroom. You can also add teachers. If you have a co-teacher or a teacher's assistant, you can add them here, and then they can help you manage your classroom as well. They can post to it, see what your students are doing, grade assignments with you, all those great features. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the stream. Okay, so the first thing that you see on Google Classroom is the stream. And for those of you that are more familiar with some of these tools, I'm going to try to give a brief overview of the tool for those who may not be familiar with it, and then I'll try to dive into some of the more advanced features. I'm going to try not to spend too much time teaching the whole thing. I'd like to give you guys the more in-depth tips, but some of these are important. So this is your stream here. This is kind of like a Facebook wall in a way. You can post things to your class. These aren't assignments or anything like that. They're not directly related to the classwork, but they are messages that you can put up. You can add attachments, things like that, but this is just on the stream. You can have classwork notifications pop up on here. And so anytime you add an assignment or a quiz or a question, it shows up in this section as well. I've turned that feature off in the settings just so that this stays only for class comments and messages. So now in the classwork section, you'll see this is the teacher view. You'll see multiple topics. So there's general resources, Google Classroom, and I put a topic for each topic that we're going to cover. So you'll notice if you're in your classroom view that you don't actually see some of these resources here. You won't even see the topic until a resource appears for you. So what I've done is, and the topics, you can arrange them by chapter, you can arrange them by type of resource. So in one class, I had it arranged by it was an English language arts class, and I had one for creative writing prompts. I had one topic for essays. I had one topic for comprehensive or reading comprehension, and so all of their assignments of that type would go into that topic. It's really up to you how you want to organize the topics, and it may vary between your different types of classes. So here you see I have general resources, and what I'm going to do is I've created these assignments ahead of time. I'm going to create one more to show you the creation. I can create assignments, quiz assignments, questions, material, or I can reuse an old post, and I'll mention that in a little bit. But if you want to just create an assignment, you can just create assignment. You're going to add a title, and you're going to add instructions. These can be instructions on how to do the assignment. It can be additional information that they need for the assignment. You can add Google files from your Google Drive, a web link, a file from your computer that you'll upload, or you can even add a video from YouTube that'll be part of the assignment for them to watch. If you don't have a resource ready yet, you can create one from here. And this will open up a blank, brand new doc, slide, sheets, drawing, or Google form and attach it right into the assignment for you. You can add points for it or make it an ungraded assignment. What the reason for that, rather than adding a material, is that if it's ungraded, they still have to click turn in to say that they've done it or that there's something that they can add. If you choose material here, then you're just giving them information. They won't have to turn it in or add anything to it. So if you're creating an assignment, you want them to respond to it, you want them to add something to this other than a comment, then you'll want to make it either graded and give it the grade that it's worth, or make it an ungraded assignment. So I'm going to make a test assignment here. And you can select due dates and due times if you want. That's important. It'll show them whether or not they've missed an assignment. So there's a section for the student that says, hey, you have this assignment missing. You can select the topic that you want it in. I'm going to put it under general resources. You can add rubrics, and I'll show you that in a minute. And originality reports is a new function that they've added in recently. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this, and I'm going to assign it to all students in the class. You can actually select individual assignments here that will not, or individual students. So if it's only for some students, then you can just select them and it will be only for them. Maybe it's extra credit or a makeup, or one group has this assignment, while another group has a different assignment, but you're keeping it all in the same class. But for now, I'm going to put this for all students, so everybody that is part of the class can see this. And I'm going to, now there's a couple options here. You can either assign it right now, you can schedule it so that it will automatically be released at a certain time, or you can just save it as a draft. So a lot of my assignments I've saved as a draft so that I can release them when I'm ready. I had daily or weekly assignments that I would go ahead and create ahead of time during lesson planning. And so all those would be ready to go. And I knew that every Monday we did creative writing prompts, and they would start a new creative writing prompt for that week. So I would go through and I would make a new creative writing prompt and assign it for Monday to be released at 11 o'clock when our language arts block started. And then it would automatically release. I didn't have to go press any buttons. If I had a substitute, I just told them it's going to be there, and it was automatically in the assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this one right now, and everyone should see that now come up under your general resources. So you have your general resources with the test assignment here, and you should be able to click on it. I have assigned it to 10 people who are part of the class. You can click View Assignment. Now, as a teacher, I can see all the people I've assigned it to. I can see everyone who's turned it in, which is no one at the moment. And I can also, if it was a graded assignment, I could add the grades here. All right, so as far as the drafts, when I'm ready for those to be released, I can just click on those, edit material, and then post or edit if I need to. So I can post here. These are some resources from Google. This is a Teach from Home. It gives a lot of distance learning tips for teachers. This is a temporary site that they've set up for the current situation. This one is the Google for Education Teacher Center. If you haven't been on here before, it's a great resource. Lots of tutorials, even structured lessons like you would find in an online course. And they have information about Google certification on here as well. All right, so that is the topics. Schedule posts. If you are creating an assignment, and let's say you created it for another class before, you can reuse your posts. Now I only have one class here, so it's not going to give me an option from other classes, but it will show me all of the assignments created for this class, if it will load. Let's try again. There we go. So from Tech to Save Your Sanity class, I want to reuse the test assignment as a template. If I have attachments and I want those not to be the same ones that were attached before, I want them to be a new one, I can create new copies of all the attachments. So if I assign the students an exit survey, I don't want them to go and edit their old exit survey. I want them to do a new one. So I'll click this to create new copies of all the attachments. So then once I pick the one I'm ready to use, I'll click Reuse Assignment, and it'll create a new assignment based on that one. And I can alter the instructions, add different attachments if I need to, change the grade, all of the things I do with a new one, but I didn't have to start from scratch. It looks like I'm starting from scratch here because the assignment was pretty bare. But if you did have information, actually, I will reuse something that has a little bit more to it. Here is the Google test sample. I'll reuse this one. Okay, so this one has my instructions already in it. It has a chapter test assigned to it. All of the settings are ready. The points are set. The only thing that I would need to change is the due date for the new assignment, and then assign it. Delete this here. All right. If you are attaching materials for students to use, there's going to be a couple of options. So I'm going to go ahead and add a file from Google Drive, and I'm going to add my outline for the presentation. And I can either set this up so that students can view the file. That means that they can just see the document, but they can't actually do anything to it. They can't edit it. They can't change it. It doesn't put it's not their file. They don't get a copy in their drive. They're just getting a link to see it on the web. I can say that they can edit the file. Now my students become collaborators on my document. They can come in, they can edit, they can collaborate together with me on my document. Or I can make a copy for each student. So if I make a copy for each student, they all get their own version of that document in their Google Drive. It's attached to the assignment already, and if it's something that they're going to edit and turn in, that's great because it's already attached. They don't have to go and add something to their drive and attach it. It's already in the assignment, and they can just edit it and then turn it in. So when I assign this one, I'm going to put it under generate. That's fine. Okay, I can assign it, and now everyone will have a copy of my outline. All right. Okay, rubrics is a new function as well. I'm going to go to this sample assignment that I assigned myself. This was one of those where I selected only one student to assign it to. So I just assigned it to myself. And I added some resources here for them. I added a Google Classroom video, how to use Google Classroom. If they click this, it'll take them to a YouTube video embedded right into their Google Classroom window. A Google Slides presentation that they can view but not edit. So this is a template presentation here. And then here's the rubric. So they can see what they're going to be graded on this assignment. So under, so that they can see that this is for conventions of writing and organization of material, how much points different levels of work will give them. And this can be created right from inside creating an assignment. So if I go to an assignment, I can view assignment and edit the assignment. So here with the rubric, you can either reuse an old rubric. If you have a spreadsheet rubric, you can import that, or I can just create a rubric here. And it's going to have your criterion title, your description, and then you can add different levels of points for each one. So these are your 4 levels here. This one will be worth 4 points. This one will be worth 3, 2, and 1. And then you add your level title. This one was sophisticated. This one was competent. And I'm not recommending any of these. I pulled these off of a rubric. I'm not saying this is the way to make a rubric, but this is the way to create a rubric inside Google Classroom. So you'll go through all these. You can give them a description to tell them what you're expecting in each level. And then you can add another criterion with a new title, new levels of points, and so on. And then you just save that, and once you have all the titles, and it attaches the rubric to your assignment for the student to see and for you to grade. So if I go to the sample assignment that I created, I'll be able to go here and see that this student has been working on their assignment. They have added, this is the grading screen for classroom assignments. So I see that they've been working on it. I can see if they're currently working on it. So if they are in the document at this moment, then I will see their cursor and what they're adding. So I'm going to go to this assignment and start working here. And you'll see the student working on the assignment. They're going to add a title. This is my assignment title. And so then at this point, I know that they're on. I can collaborate with them back and forth live, see where they're at, what their thinking is. So this is a really great feature. I use this for writing conferences, and it was really great to be able to work with them. They can also share these with their students, with their peers, and do peer review as well. So while I am grading, I can add comments over here. They've added the comment bank. They've updated that. So here's your rubric. You can see the conventions of writing. And if you just select a level here, that automatically adds that grade to the rubric. Organization style, competent, and it starts to automatically grade it because it's an assignment out of 100. So they have 5 out of 8 here, 3 out of 4 here, and it automatically calculates your grade for you. Within this, I can add comments. I've already added a couple here. So I highlight the text that I want to comment on, and then click the comment button. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the title and click the comment link. And I can either choose from my comment bank here, now that I have some that I've already created, or I can create a new one. Make sure to capitalize properly and comment. Now that one is not in my comment bank, but let's say I say that often to students, I may want to click the snowman here and add this to the comment bank. Now when I'm getting ready to make a comment, I can type in hashtag and start typing a word that I use, capital, and make sure to capitalize properly. And that comment is already ready to go. All right. The other new feature I want to cover here is the originality reports. Now, this may or may not be turned on for your organization. I just wanted to touch on it really quickly. If you have it turned on, even in the basic account, that you can do it for 3 assignments. You can turn on originality reports for 3 assignments per class. And then if you have the Google for Education Enterprise Edition, then you can do it for unlimited assignments. So if you have, I see 2 flagged passages here. So if I go to the originality report, it will show me how much of this is pasted from the internet. So it did a web search, because Google is great at that, and it's highlighting what is found from other websites. So now this is from Wikipedia. I just copied and pasted this in about Google Classroom, and it's showing me that 67% of this report so far comes from the internet, and only 7% was cited. So there was a citation included in the Wikipedia article, and so that citation is giving them credit for citing at least 7% of their quoted content. And then it shows you where it came from. So you can click here and see where these passages came from Wikipedia, or if it's another site, it'll show you that as well. So that's a cool new feature, just so you can help work on proper citations and plagiarism, and the student actually can see that as well, and they can see, hey, this is not properly cited yet. You're going to need to change this before it's going to be accepted as your own work. All right, and so then once it's graded, I can click return, and the student will be able to see that grade. And I can just grade it right from here and return it right from here. If I had multiple students working on this assignment, I'd be able to shuffle back and forth between them with these arrows. I could check all the students' assignments here that are working on this, and I'd be able to switch back and forth. So it makes the grading process really simple, so you can switch back and forth and compare all that. All right. So that's student feedback. Going to go into the, let's see, the grading section. So I can click grades here. Now, I haven't set up a grading system. I haven't weighted it. I usually didn't, because I was forced to use a different student management system, or a grading system, but I would just keep the raw scores here, and then I could put them into the grading system with all the weights. You can set this up to do all the weighting. You can integrate it with your student information system or grading system. If your school system is on Google's list, they're working to integrate it with more systems. But if that's the case, then when you add the grades here, when you grade their assignment, it will automatically go into your student information system. Here you can see all the students. You can see each assignment that I've given, what their grade is or the turn-in status. So it's great to just see an overview. It's basically your grade book. I was told to, when I went through student teaching, I was told to keep a paper grade book and then add that into my student information system. So when I got Google Classroom, it was the same thing. I would just use this as my paper grading system. As I graded, the grades were recorded here, and then I would copy this over into the grading system. And that way, if something ever happened to either one, it was secure. So the settings that I set up for my classroom, it's going to depend on how you want to use your classroom, how you want your students to interact with it. But you can change your class name and the description and all that. You can find your class code here. You can display it, copy it. You can change it even or disable it so that students can't use this code to join your classroom anymore. For the stream, I've made it so that students can only comment. That way, they can't add their own posts, or I can make it so that only teachers can post and comment to it. So if you just want that to be an information bulletin board for giving your students new information, then you can choose this one. Only teachers can post or comment. But I put it so students can comment. That way I control the topics, but the students can give their feedback on it. Hide notifications. That's just an option for you. Show deleted items. Now, right now, only teachers can view deleted items. If you want students to be able to see them, then if you delete an item, it's not really deleted because they'll still be able to see it. You'll still be able to see it. So I leave this off. So if I need to take something off of the stream or off of the classroom work page, then I can do that. Meet, Google Meet, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but within Classroom, you can actually set up a Google Meet session. And so this only works for students within your domain currently, but this will keep the Meet Classroom. You don't have to set up a link outside and post that. This actually just starts the Meet right there. But it only works with students within your domain, and none of you are in my domain right now. All right. There's a couple more features that I wanted to show you. One of them only works on the app, and this is just a cool little tool that I didn't know about until somebody showed me. So I'm going to be the one to show you, but I have to pull it up here. Let me go ahead and add our meeting code. So this is, again, this is another Meet feature that we talk about later, but I'm actually pulling up my phone to use it as a second device to screencast from my phone so that you can see what's happening there. So I can use different apps, and I will stop sharing on here. And now I will start sharing. All right. Okay. Sorry about the feedback there. Present screen. Here we are. Okay, and now my iPhone screen is up, and I can swap into my Classroom app on my phone. So this is my teacher view of the Classroom app on my phone. all of the students that are in my classroom are now I need to refresh. There we go. Okay, so all my students that are in my classroom are now in this student selector. So the student selector, I can either mark them as absent or call them later. So if I hit next, it'll randomly select a new student. So I'll say, oh, Josh is not here today. I'll call Jill later. And now it's picked this person. So it's picked Mrs. Clements. Now the next person picked would be Tina. Next one is Jody. So, or if that person isn't picked, they're absent, or we're going to call on them later, I click call on them, and you'll notice up at the top it's 3 picked. That number stays at 3 because Megan would now be the third person picked. Now if I hit next, now Alexandria is the 4th person picked, and it shows you how many have not been picked yet. Or who have been picked, or who is absent. So that's just a cool extra feature that the app gives you, but the online, the web version doesn't. So it's just a neat feature if you need a classroom randomizer. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there. Okay. All right, the last thing that I wanted to show you about Google Classroom is the extension that comes with it. So once you have your students in Google Classroom, you can actually download this extension for the Chrome browser, and it allows you to do a couple neat things. If you click it, and I don't know if you can actually see the drop down. Well, I guess I'll have to tell you what it's doing. The click down, it shows you, well, actually, let me show you my window. That will fix it. Present now. Okay, so you should be able to see the drop down now. This gives you all your classrooms. If you had other classes here, you would see English, you'd see Math 1, whatever classrooms you had. You can just go right to classroom.google.com. If you click this link, it'll take you to your classroom page. But if you click on a specific class, you can share links with your students if they have this on their browser as well. So it only works if they have it on their browser too. So for a school that has Chromebooks, this is an extension that you could ask to have pushed to the Chromebooks. And then when you're ready, you can push a link to the students. So if I wanted to go to, let's just go to wikipedia.com, and I want the students to go there, I would click my classroom extension, and it's set to push to students. For now, let's just do that. And then I would click the push button. And if you have this extension installed on your browser that you're using, that link would automatically pop up for you, and you wouldn't have to type in a URL for the student wouldn't have to type up a URL. You can also use this as an assignment right here. So now I'm in the Tech to Save Your Sanity class, and if I click create an assignment, ask a question, or make an announcement, I'm going to ask a question. What do you think of this as a source? And it can be a short answer or multiple choice. And terrible, okay, great. And now you have this link already put on there. It's going to be ungraded, and I'm going to ask the question. So now this will automatically push into my Google Classroom. And if I go to the let's see, classwork page. There you go. It's now a new question, and you should be able to respond to it. So if you if you go onto the classroom, if you're on it, if you can, go ahead and respond what you think about this, and you'll see a live update of everyone's responses. Okay. Let's see here. All right, that is all for Google Classroom. Are there any questions before we move on? The extension name is it's the Share to Classroom extension, I believe. Let me just look at it up. Yeah, Share to Classroom. So I'll actually put the link to the extension so you know you're getting the right one. I'll just put that in the chat. And that one is available on the Chrome Web Store, and it'll just install right to your browser. It's from Google. I'm a little hesitant about extensions that aren't from Google, so it's nice to know this one's right from Google. They've created it to work with their product. Any other classroom questions? All right, we're going to move on to Google Forms. And I forgot to mention the structure. I'm going to try to spend the first half, maybe a little bit more than half, on things that are useful for all teachers. These are so in the survey, I got responses that about half of you are elementary and half of you are secondary. Most of the tools I have for secondary apply across both elementary and secondary. But there's a couple of elementary tools that the secondary teachers may not be interested in. So I'm going to save those for the end. So there'll be a little intermission between the two, so that if you're not interested in the elementary resources, you don't have to stick around for them. So right now, we're going to move to forms. If students do not have a school email, can they still use this? I believe so. I believe it's connected to Classroom. If you want to try it out, you can download that extension for your Chrome browser with the account that you're connected to My Classroom with, and I'll try to push out a link a little later on and see if that gets to you. But I believe it should work with any classroom that you are a part of with the account that you're signed into on that Chrome browser. So for this Chrome browser, I'm signed in and I'm a teacher. Do students need to add the extension to the Chromebook? If they have the ability to add extensions themselves, then they can. But when I was a Google admin, I disabled extensions for students so that they wouldn't get anything that they shouldn't. And so if there was an extension that they needed, I would push that to all the Chromebooks through the Google admin console. But if they have the ability to add extensions, then yes, they can add that, and they would need to add that if you want to be able to push links to them directly. So this functionality allows them to push links to you. If they say, hey, I want you to take a look at this, they can send that link to you, and then it won't pop up automatically for the teacher. It will ask you whether or not you want it, or you'll be able to find it here. If you go under the classroom, and you can see pushed to students, so you can see links that you've pushed in the past, or you can see received from students, so you'll be able to see the links that the students have sent you. So it's just a nice little tool to go along with Google Classroom. It's not 100% necessary, but it does save a lot of time, especially with younger students. Typing in a URL or finding the right link was sometimes difficult for them. So I could just push a website to their Chromebook. It would automatically open up a new tab for them with that ready to go. All right, so Google Forms is another part of Google Classroom. And I'm going to go ahead and open up some of these here. None of these are drafts anymore. Oh, someone has responded. So one person said that Wikipedia is terrible as a source. Google Forms and quizzes. So I'm going to go ahead and release these assignments. Exit tickets. So one thing that, so if you got the survey that I sent out, that was a Google form, obviously. And that is one use where you can send out a survey, collect some information that you need from students, from parents. I used it to find out what good times there were for parent-teacher conferences, or what they thought about a certain upcoming event. Just getting some information from them for the school or for my classroom. If you so you can make an exit ticket. So I'm going to go ahead and release that one. I'm going to go ahead and click assign. And so now you have an exit ticket that should pop up there. So in the form, now this is something to watch out for. If you're the teacher and you click the the form here, like you want to edit it, it's actually going to take you to the form itself. And that means that you're taking the quiz, or you're taking the exit ticket on your own. If you want to edit it, then you can click this edit this form down here, and now you're in the edit mode. So these are this is just a basic exit ticket. What's an important thing you learned in class today? Did you feel prepared for today's lesson? What could you do to be more prepared for class tomorrow? What would help make today's lesson more effective? So your students can respond to this. You can collect the responses, and you can assign a new one every day so that this can become a routine of your classroom. Here is a comprehension quiz. So actually, let's go to conditional pass. So selections based on choice. So you can actually have a Google form or a quiz that moves around based on what their answer to a certain question is. So I'm going to go ahead and go here. Uh-oh, this is a broken one. Apologize, that is not supposed to be there. All right, well, it appears that my multiple choice choose your own adventure got deleted. That's an important note about forms. Unlike most Google Docs, if you edit a Google Doc, you can undo your changes. You can go back to a previous version. But when it comes to forms, if you delete a question or update a question or change something, you actually can't get that back. It's gone. And that is oh, there it is. Okay, well, there was apparently a glitch. But if I were to delete some of these, they would be gone. I wouldn't be able to go back. There's not an undo for the quiz once you have saved it and exited out. They may have added an undo, and I didn't know about that. I see something here, but in the past, if you change something, you wouldn't be able to get it back. So it looks like maybe Google has added undo for us. That'd be nice. All right, so for this one here, if you want to preview a form, by the way, you just click the preview and you'll see it as if you are the person. Oh, it was still showing me from this perspective. That's why. All right, so choose answer to move between sections. So go to section 1. So from here, that will take me to section 1. Which section would you like to jump to, 2 or 3? So I can skip to section 3. Where would you like to go now? I can skip back to section 1. I can go to section 2. If I select I don't care, I've set that to go to just the next section. And now you're at the end. So this could be for a choose your own adventure. It could be for guided instruction. So let's say you want to do comprehension checks, and based on whether or not they got the answer correct, they'll move on to either the next question, or they'll move on to a video that'll show them how to do the question correctly before taking them back to the question to change their answer. So the way that you do that is when you set up a question, a multiple choice here, you go down and you'll say go to section based on answer. So if I use that, each answer now has this drop down next to it, and based on what I select, 2 will take you to section 2 here. Now it's actually section 3, because section 1 is our first opening title and intro question. So make sure that you title it something that you'll know what it is to get back to it. But if based on this one, if they go to 2, they'll go to section 2. If they click 3, they'll go to section 3, or what I've titled section 3 here. Or you can have them go to the end, or if they select a specific answer, that could be the end, and it will submit the form for them. But the way that you set up sections is this button right here, add a section, and that will put a section into your quiz, and you can move from there. Now, once you add a section, it changes what each of these sections is called. So you'll notice that on this question, section 1 still links to what section 1 is. Question 3, well, it should link to this section here, but I don't care. We'll still also take you to the next section with this, which is section 3. If I want to jump to section 3, now section 3, and before it was section 4 and labeled section 3, now it's section 5. So it will adjust if you're adding in questions. So that's a nice tool in case you're doing, like I said, a choose your own adventure or a guided lesson with comprehension checks. That's one cool feature of this. I'm going to delete this section so that it's a good. Oh, we have a response. So under the responses section for each of your questions, you can see a summary. So one person has done it. So 100% of people said section 1. 100% here, but if you have multiple responses, it's going to cut that up for you, which is it's good to see those pie charts. You can do quick view of who understood the topic. You can go to each individual question if you want to see the individual responses for that. You can go to individual answers, and so I see just the quiz answers for this one person. All right. Let's go on to quizzes. So if you're using this as, you're using forms as a way to do assessment, you have quizzes here, and let me open up this quiz. I'm going to edit. And I'm going to assign this to the whole class. This is a comprehension quiz from the short story called The Necklace. And if you're a student, this is what you'll see. This is set, and let me go to the settings. So what I've done for the settings in this quiz is I don't want to collect email addresses. I've limited it to one response, and I don't want to restrict it to users in trusted organizations. So because this classroom has people from outside my organization, I have unchecked this box so that you can take the quiz as well. If you check this box, then only students in your school's organization will be able to answer the quiz. If I limit it to one response, then it will automatically it'll only let them respond once, and it will make them sign into their account before they can do it. I don't allow you to edit your quiz afterward, because then you can find out the answers and then come back and change it. and I don't let you see the summary charts and text responses from other students. You can turn those on if you're wanting to show them different data, if it's just collecting thoughts or ideas or brainstorming. And under quizzes, I make this a quiz. So it has point value and it does auto grading, and will be able to import the grade into Google Classroom. It'll release the grade immediately after the submission because this is auto graded. And they'll be able to see their missed questions, the correct answers, and the point values. So I'm going to save this. When you take the quiz, you can go ahead and select this. Now, as a student, you can see that it's worth 1 point. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer this here. And it's been a while since I read it. I'm just kind of selecting each one of these here. All right, and then this is an open-ended question. This is a short answer. You describe the emotion the story makes you feel. All right, and submit. Now I can view my score. 3 out of 6. What explanation does she have? I got that one wrong. It was that she had nothing suitable to wear. So I can see my answer, and I can see what the correct answer is based on those settings that I set. And this is really a time saver when you have just simple comprehension checks. This one here would be manually graded by the teacher. So then this would change their score once they got it. You can not even give this a point value if you want to not have it graded automatically. I'm going to show you in the next example how you can actually have it grade short answers. But this is, I would go in as the teacher. So I'll go back to the teacher view now. And I can see one response so far. And this is, again, this is a great way to see just in general how your class as a whole received the lesson. I can go in and see what the most popular answers were, all based on this. Now, if I go to the individual response, I can go and I can manually change the grades of each question. So let's say that I talked to them and I know they knew this material and they accidentally clicked the wrong one. I can change that for them. I can fix the grade there, and then I can go down and automatically or manually grade this one. So this is 1 out of 2. That didn't really provide very much detail, but they did answer it, and it was more about an emotion. So I'm going to save now because I have this on here, and I'm going to save the edit. So now they got 1 out of 2, and the student will be able to see that grade. I can, when I'm in classroom, I can go to the assignment and import the grades, and it will automatically pull their grades from their responses on the quiz into here and into the grade book that I showed you. So again, that's a really useful tool for if you know you're going to have these lessons and you want them auto graded. You just put the questions in, and you don't have to grade, however many students you have. You don't have to grade that many times. It does it for you, and you just have to go through and look at the short responses. So the next one is a little bit longer. Oh, I keep closing that. So the next one's a little bit longer. It is a chapter test, and I'm going to show you how to grade short responses on here. So for the Chapter 23 test, this one has some choose all that apply. What were the 3 estates? So you can choose the 3 that you want to apply, and what was the largest estate. Now this one is the short answer. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the 3rd state. Okay, and again, just answer these questions randomly because I don't want to take the time to read them all. This one here is not going to be auto graded. It's a little bit more comprehensive, little bit longer, but it is required, so I don't know. And just clicking. I started to, for this quiz, I required some of the answers because I had students that were accidentally skipping them. And so making the answers required forces them to actually try to answer the question, and it keeps them from accidentally missing ones. They can't say, oh, I forgot to answer that, but I can only submit it once. There's no forgetting to answer these. They have to put something. So here's something. This is a long one. 2 paragraphs. And again, I don't know. All right. So, I mean, even if they put, I don't know, at least they put something and I can see that they didn't accidentally missed it. So now my response has been recorded. I'm going to go back in as the teacher now. And I clicked it again. And it says you can only fill this form out once. So this is what they'll see if they try to go back and retake the quiz after or the test after they've done it. So from the teacher view, I can see that one response. And I can go through and go to the individual. I can grade each question by question. So this will show me the first student's answer. The next student will see an answer here and so on, or I'll see the next student's answer for that question here. So if I want to grade each question, I can go through and grade one question at a time. Click on that. Now I'm on the next question. Click on this. And I can go through, or I can grade each individual student's test individually by clicking the individual responses. And this will give me the option to go back and forth. So I can see the whole test here. The important thing to note here is you'll see on question 2, this was a short answer. The student typed in what they were answering, and I wrote the third estate. This was graded as correct. Because this is the correct answer. As the teacher, I can go in and correct and say it's incorrect or correct right from here, and it'll automatically either give 0 points or full points, or I can edit the number of points that they get. Now, the reason that this was automatically graded is because in the question, I set up the answer key. So in the answer key, I put every possible permutation that I thought they might put on this answer. So the third estate with proper capitalization, third estate without the and using a number, the third estate, just third estate. They might say the merchants and peasants, merchants and peasants, merchants and peasants all lowercase, the merchants and peasants all lowercase. If they have a typo or they add some different punctuation or capitalization, then it's not going to automatically grade it. But at least for the most common answers, if they're spelling correctly and capitalizing somewhat correctly, this is going to automatically grade it for me, and that's just a few extras that I don't have to go grade. Anything other than that, it's going to mark it incorrect. Now, you don't have to say anything other than that is marked incorrect, and so it'll grade these. But if they say something else, it'll leave it ungraded until you come through and grade it. So that's another option. If you don't want them to put the right answer but with a typo and it tells them it's incorrect, you can uncheck this box, and then it will just not automatically grade those answers, and you'll have to go through and say, oh, this was a typo, it's correct, or no, they said the second estate, it's incorrect. All right, so that is the auto grading, and then yes, you can. I've set these to only give you one try. You can set them so they can go back and they can change their answers. So that's another option. There's a lot of options with the tools. It's all about how you want to use them for your students and what works best. If your school has Chromebooks, for the quizzes, you can turn on locked mode. So in the form, oops. So I'm just assigning these forms so that you can see them if you like. Edit. Okay, so in the form, under settings, you can, under quizzes, well, it was here before. It might not be available for this domain. Under my school account, there's a locked, make this a locked quiz. And what that does is they aren't allowed to go to any other websites while they're in the quiz. So they can't open the quiz in one window, have Google on the other, or their digital textbook on the other, and search for the answers while they're taking the quiz. So if this is you want to make this a really serious assessment, it's not open book test, you can do that with locked quiz mode using Chromebooks if they're managed Chromebooks by your school. And that setting needs to be turned on by your Google admin. All right. That is it for forms and quizzes. Are there any questions on forms and quizzes before we move on? All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on quickly to Google Meet. There's not a whole lot for me to add to Google Meet because it's a pretty basic video conferencing app as far as I've seen. I usually use Zoom. For this meeting, we're using Google Meet because that's what Grand Valley State University uses or has asked us to use for the webinars, and it's a great app for easy, simple video conferencing. If you have the education edition, which I don't because this is done through my domain, if you have the education edition, then you are able to, as the teacher, and you probably know this if you're already using it, you can mute students, you can kick out students, and you are the only one who's able to do that. And you have a little bit more control over your meeting. If you're using the regular version of Google Meet, then you have fewer options as far as controlling your meeting. No one's able to kick me out of my own meeting. No one's able to mute me, as far as I know. But there's just a few things that only teachers in an education version can do. One of the tips that I already showed you was if you have another device, you can join your meeting with that device and share your screen from your iPhone or your iPad. So I know some teachers that I've talked to have been using that as a whiteboard. So they'll bring their iPad in, they'll open up a drawing app, and they'll share their screen from Google Meet on their iPad. And then they can present from their computer still, and they'll also have the iPad as a whiteboard. So that's a neat way to use it. And the screen sharing, obviously. If you aren't familiar with it, just really quickly, when you click the present button, you can either choose to share your whole window, which I'm doing right now, or your whole screen. So I'm sharing one of my screens right now. Yes, I believe on Android you should be able to share your screen as well. I haven't tested it, but I believe it works both ways to be able to share from Android or iOS. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yes, the screen sharing. So I'm sharing one whole screen. So you can see all the windows that are on here. You can actually see my Google Slides presenter mode here. So you can see my presenter mode. You can see this window. And if you're using extensions and you're trying to show someone how to work through a problem, using the share screen is the only way for them to see these drop-down menus that you're sharing. If you share just a window, they'll only see that window. So I could share just this, and you would see just this without seeing my desktop background or other windows. But it's again, it's depending on how you're using it. I prefer to share just one window unless I need to share them the whole screen, because it kind of focuses in on just the thing that I'm sharing. If you share a Chrome browser and you switch between tabs, they can see when you're sharing just a window, they can see you switch between the tabs. But if you pull one of those tabs away like this, it will stick with the original browser window that you were sharing. And we are actually on Google Meet. So those are some of the differences there between sharing a desktop and sharing a window. So I'm actually going to go back to sharing a window here. Have to stop share, and I want to present just this window. All right. Are there any questions about Google Meet before we move on? I have a question. So if you need to see, so someone asked about sending a wellness check with a question, and they weren't able to see the students' responses. So I think you're talking about in Google Classroom. Is that correct? You're talking about Google Classroom questions? So under Google Classroom, if I create a question, and that's right here under quiz assignment, yep. So how are you doing? And I want to make this a short answer question. I can also do multiple choice like we did with the last question about Wikipedia. But I'm going to do a short answer. And I'm going to add this to, I'm going to make it ungraded again. I'm going to add this to the general resources section of your, I'm going to send a general resources section of the classroom. So if a couple of you could go into the classroom and answer this question, then I'll be able to show the responses. So you can edit your answer if you want, and the students can reply to each other. You guys can talk back and forth about your responses. So if you can, just quickly go ahead and answer some of those. Make sure that you turn it in when you're done answering the question. All right, I'm going to move on. You guys can answer that question, and we can come back to show how that's done in just a few minutes here. All right, Google Slides, which is what this is right here. Google Slides is like your PowerPoint for those that haven't used it. I find it's a little less powerful than PowerPoint, but the fact that it's integrated into G Suite and has all of the nice linking features with all of the different products, and it goes in well with Classroom, and it's just meant to be used with Google and Google Classroom. It is a nice tool for that. I do most of my slideshow presentations in Google Slides just because they're in the cloud, they're easy to use, and I know you can use Office 365, but I really like Google's suite of products and the way that they've integrated them. So I use mostly Google. And so it's just convenient for me to have all my slides in my Google Drive, be able to pull them up, be able to share them out very easily, use them, embed them in web pages. There's a way to do that with your Google Slides where you can put an embed on your website. So if you have like a Google Sites, that's really neat. If you go to my site, you can see a couple of slideshows that I've embedded. I'll put this one up there after the presentation so you can see it. There's a few really nice features with Google Slides that make it worth using. So we're on slides. One thing is with Google Slides, I'm going to show you this is presenter view. Got to show my screen again here. If you are working with your students virtually and you want to share your screen but control the presentation without showing them everything, you can use presenter view. So you can share just the window with the slideshow, but if you'll notice on my screen, I actually have this window in front of what you were seeing. So I was sharing the window in the background here, but I see on mine this this presenter view. So it shows me what my previous slide was, and I can switch back and forth. And you'll notice that it's like a remote control for my slides presentation. So I can switch to the next slide. I can select specific slides. If I have them titled, I can go back to the beginning. I can select my EdTech Dilemma slide here, and this is how I slide through the different bullet points that I created, and go back to here. So this is nice. You have a timer. It shows you how long you've had it up. You can pause the timer or reset. This is your presentation timer. You can have your speaker notes here if you've created any at the bottom of slides. So that's nice. And then if you do audience tools, you can have your students respond right through their browser. So now I'm accepting questions from anyone. My domain is named Daniel Morrison, so that's why it's asking. So anyone can submit questions to this link, and I'm going to copy this link and put it in the chat for you. So if you click this link, that will take you to the audience response, and your questions will actually appear here on my presenter view. So if anybody wants to try that, I'm going to open that up on another window and do the same thing. So here's a question that you can ask. Now you also have the option to ask it anonymously. So I'm going to anonymously ask, will there be snacks? And I can respond to the, I can present that. I can put that up on the slide. So now everybody can see the question. So until I put that up there, no one can actually see that question. But if I want to address a specific question, I can say, here's someone asked this, and then address it. And you can see it's by anonymous. Other people can see questions that have been asked, and they can like it or dislike it. So I can have questions going for a while, and then only answer the ones that get the most likes, or avoid the ones that get the dislikes. And that way I can address the ones that most people have. So I'm actually going to leave this tool up. That link is in the chat for our presentation. If you have questions, now that I've introduced the presenter view to you, if you have questions, go ahead and ask your questions there, like other people's questions, and then I can answer your questions from the presenter view. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing just the slide window. Perfect. Okay. Oh, I shared the wrong window. Someone is trying to join my class. All right. There it is. All right. All right, and we're back on the Google Slides. Now, one thing that is a little bit, I don't want to say annoying, but it is a little bit inconvenient, is it puts this bar across the top to show that you can ask questions here. It's not the end of the world, but if you don't like that, then there are other ways to get responses that you could use. They could still do it in the chat for your video conference, but I kind of like this this response here. I just don't like the bar. All right, I'm gonna go. Someone said, is this like Google Meet where you get a new link every time you do this? Yes, this is a link that is only for this presentation. So each time you do this presentation separately, it's going to generate a new link, actually, yes. What did you use to make those graphics in your presentation? They look nice. Thank you. I actually didn't make these, and that's actually one of the things I'm going to talk about with slides. Is the that's the audience Q&A, and I'm actually going to talk about templates in a little bit here. Actually, I'll just skip to that. The templates that I used, I'm going to release that resource in Google Classroom. And that's actually, this one is from Slides Carnival. So this link will be in the Google Classroom. It's slidescarnival.com. And I'll try to send out all of these links to those directly. If you don't have access to the classroom, I can send these out to you later. So I'll give you guys an opportunity to let me know if you need these separately. I'm going to also release slides, tips, and tricks. So I'm going to post this one. And these I just posted as materials. This is if you don't need the students to respond. You just create a material, and you can add attachments, links, whatever, and that goes on there. They can comment on it, but there's nothing that they have to turn in. It's not there's no due date. And so they're able to just get the material that they need. I usually pin those at the top of the class or at the top of a topic, and that way they will always have access to that during the class. All right, let's see here. So yeah, I got the template from slidescarnival.com. They have different ones you can select from. There's a wide variety. I liked the comic book motif. Went along with my utility belt. Oh, I went to the wrong one. It goes along with my utility belt imagery. I can't talk and type at the same time. Carnival.com. So you'll notice they have all of these free presentations here, graphics, different tips and tricks, blogs. So yeah, it's great. It gives you the options. I'll just go to slides.google.com, pull it up. I believe I have the template in here. Yeah, copy of comic book template. So inside this template that you download from them, or actually you just get the Google Slide link and it goes to your drive, they have instructions for use, how to edit it, and then all of these template slides here that you can use, and you edit them to put your own text in. So now into the big concept, I can put whatever I want. The graphics, I can move those around or change them. They give you kind of what the different ones are for, 2 or 3 columns. You can do charts, tables, and then at the end, if you go down here, they have a bunch of icons that fit the theme. So if you actually click on this icon, you can copy and paste it into other slides on the show to kind of keep the same theme going. And then if you do create new slides up here, it's actually all built into the theme now. So they've created, it's not just slides with some things that you can copy and paste. It's actually a master theme that you can pick from to add new slides. So this is the 3-column one. And if you need to change the background, you just right click on the background, change background, and now you can change the color. So now it's a green comic book page, or it's a purple one or pink one, fuchsia, I guess. So yeah, it's really customizable, and then you just delete the ones that you don't need. So that's, and I'm going to just go ahead and revert to the original one because I don't want to lose my template that I've created. So I'm going to restore from a previous version, and now we're back to the template. So yeah, so you just pick and choose what you want out of it and take out the things that you don't. So it's a great resource to make really nice ones without having to reinvent the wheel, because it's already out there. All right, so that is the Slides Carnival template. There's a lot of other template sites out there, but Slides Carnival has a lot, and I don't want to vet a whole lot of different sites. So if I find one that has what I need, then I'll stick with that. And then if I'm like, I need something different, and Slides Carnival just doesn't have it, I'll go search for another one. But it's just kind of as needed that I find those. All right. Captions. I don't know if you know this, but Slides is actually put in a closed caption option. Google Meet has it as well. I forgot to mention that during Google Meet, but if I I want to put it at the top, and the text size is going to be medium, and I'm going to turn the captions on, and it's going, yep, you can use my microphone. Now, if you have students that are hard of hearing, or if they are just emergent readers and you want to give them a little extra experience or exposure to text, I just like having closed captions on just because it allows me to, wait, what did they say? And I can look back and see what they said. So the closed caption feature is really nice, and it works surprisingly well. The beginning of text to talk, dragon naturally speaking, that was iffy. It was hit and miss. This is still makes some mistakes. It says dragon naturally speaking ying, but that's that's some of the. It's not as bad as it used to be, and it's a whole lot better than not having captions if you need them. So the captions option is really great feature to use for if you need it. So again, to turn that on the slideshow, you just while you're presenting, you go down to the bottom here where it gives you your options, and you just click the captions, and that'll turn them on and off. And then there's a pointer, the Q&A, all these things are available there. If you're presenting a window and you want full screen, you can select that, and it pops it up full screen. Yeah, there. Oh well, I guess I clicked on the slide, and so it moved us. You can embed your slideshows. So if you want to embed a slideshow for later, I'm going to exit the slideshow. So in your edit mode, you forgive me, here we go. There is a publish to the web option. If you go under file, publish to the web, and if you click that, you can get a link to either link the slide so they can click on it, or embed, and you can pick the embed size, small, medium, or large. Auto advanced slide. So this is actually going to become like a carousel on the web page or wherever you embed it, and it'll change the slide automatically every however many seconds that you put, or up to a minute. Start slideshow as soon as the player loads. So it will wait for them to play it if you don't click that option, and it will you can restart the slideshow after the last slide. So if you wanted to loop around, then you just select this option here. And then the now if you have school accounts, domain accounts, this one here will require viewers to sign in with their domain account. So if your school only wants students to be able to access this material, you can check this box, and unless they have an account with your school, they won't be able to view the slideshow. Then when you're ready, you hit start publishing, and it will, let me go ahead and actually start slideshow, restart after last, and publish. Okay, so now it gives me my code, and the reason it asked if I was sure if I wanted to start publishing it was because as soon as I click that, it's available. So if someone for some reason has the link to this, then it's out there, it's public on the web. So I can take this and I can embed it into my website. If I just need the link is here, and this is the information here. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So again, this is published already, and if you go to that, it pops up this here, and it's loading. It should auto move to the next one because that's what I set it to do. But you'll notice down here there aren't as many controls anymore. I can just play it or select which slide to go to or go full screen. I don't have full control over this slide because this is the public link for this slide. I can click and move through the slides. I'm not sure why it's not automatically moving through them as I set it to. Here we go, auto advance when played. It's supposed to, so let's give it 5 seconds. Oh, and it also needs to be played. That was the problem. And so now it'll automatically go through. If you have it in the embed, it works a little bit better with the automatic playing and running through the slides. But this is a public published link now. If you don't want it to be accessible anymore, you just click Stop Publishing on your slide in that Publish to the Web section, which you can again find under File and Publish to the Web. And then it's stopped, and you can publish it again later if you need to. All right, so I'm going to go back and present again. Unfortunately, I lost the Q&A window. So pull up my presenter notes again. And OK, so this is something I'll show you here. I'm going to stop sharing. Somebody was asking about the, oh boy, we're going to run out of time. Somebody was asking about the presenter mode and the questions and if that showed. So when I pulled this slideshow back up again, it's asked me if I want to start a new question and answer, or if I want to continue the recent one. So I could start a fresh one, or I'm going to continue the recent one. So it's the same. It's this one right here. Click continue, and now it pulls up this session. So I haven't actually lost it. It's available right there. So that was that's what happens with the question and answer if you do a different presentation. All right. I'm going to go back to showing you my full screen here so I can switch between a few things. All right. If you're doing slideshows for students as an assignment, you can, if you want them to have a pre-made slideshow that you give them, you can assign a slideshow on Google Classroom. You can give them a copy. So again, on here, when you make an assignment, I could assign this slideshow by attaching it from my drive. And now I can either make it so that you can just view it. That's similar to the public link, except without all the looping and automatically going through. You could view the slideshow. You'd also be able to view it in the edit mode. So they would be able to see just like when you're editing it, but they wouldn't actually be able to edit it. I can allow the students to edit it. So let's say I create a slide for each student and I want them to put their responses or their work in that slide so that it's all of the students have it on one. We're creating one big slideshow. That would be this option. All the students can edit the file. With this, I would be careful because the students can edit the whole file. There's not currently a way to allow students to only edit this slide or this range of slides. If you give them access, they have access to the whole thing. That means students are able to delete other students' slides. If they add a slide, it bumps the other students' slides down or up. So that's something to be careful with. Make sure that you set, ground rules for how to collaborate with the slides if you're going to make it so that everybody can edit the same show. Or you can make a copy for each student. So this is if you set up a template for a slideshow responses, each student will get a copy of that slide that they can edit themselves, but it only affects their copy. And then that is attached to the assignment, and they can turn their copy in when they're done with the assignment. So again, you can let them view your slideshow. You can let them edit your slideshow if you create something for all the students to work on together, or you can make a copy for each student that they'll be able to edit their own copy of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the classroom. Google Slides presentation. So each of you can have your own copy, and ungraded, and assign. All right, so that's going to go and make a copy for each student. Now, if I was reusing a post, like I showed before, if you reuse the post and you click that, create a new copy of all attachments, what that'll do is it will, again, give each student a new copy for that assignment. If you don't select create new copies of all attachments, what it's going to do is it's going to take the attachments from the first assignment and continue it on. So a use scenario where I use this in my classroom is I did it for their final project. They had a research paper to write, and they I started with one assignment that created a doc for them. And then that doc would follow them throughout the process of doing the project. And I would create new milestone assignments. So the next one would be first draft, and then it would be peer reviews. And so then that assignment, because I didn't click the create new copies of all attachments, it kept the attachments from the previous one, which was the student's copy. And so then they were able to, with the new assignment, continue on with that attachment and continue the project. So it stayed with them the whole time. All right, going back to slides. If the students are working on their own slide, they can do choose your own adventure or guided instruction using slides. I've done ebooks where they create ebooks on here, and they can put pictures on half and text on the other, or however they want to do it. And you can work on student collaborative events, but slides is pretty versatile. The next thing actually is going to be Pear Deck, which adds a lot more versatility. So Pear Deck is an interactive slides add-on, and I'm going to go ahead and have to actually close this. Oops, I'm going to have to close this slide here. When you're doing a Pear Deck presentation, you actually present it a little bit differently. You go to your add-ons and you open Pear Deck add-on, and on the side you'll see your template library, different types of questions you can add. This is all part of Pear Deck and adding it in. You'll click Start Lesson from this screen. Instead of clicking Present, you're going to click Start Lesson. And then you can choose between a student-paced activity or an instructor-paced activity. So the student-paced activity, they'll actually get a copy of the slide and they can click through it back and forth as they'd like, but they can still interact with it. And I'm going to show you the interaction. With the instructor-paced, you're presenting the lesson and the students get it on their screen, and when you move a slide, it moves it for them. So if you don't want to actually present this, you can actually have your students view it through Pear Deck. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to do an instructor-paced activity, and that's going to pull up the presentation. Okay, so if you go to joinpd.com, and type in this code, NSLLW, or you can give them a link, or you can invite in class. So I'm going to invite my entire classroom. I'm going to invite this section. I'm also going to copy the link and I'm going to paste it in the Meet. So there's a lot of ways to get your students to connect. And I can open the teacher dashboard. This is like a presenter view for the students. And that classroom code again is NSLLW. I can start the class, and the code is still here if you ever need to pop it back up for the students. So this is what the students will see. I can close the join code. Up in the top right corner, it says the join code. So you'll be able to still join if you close that and go on. So NSLLW, if you go to joinpd.com or follow the link in Classroom or in the chat. So this is going, I have 2 out of 11 students from my classroom are in. So I am going to, I can skip down to the Pear Deck slide. This is, again, this is like the presentation for the presenter mode for slides, but it's got some enhancements that I'm going to show you. So because I clicked that, that comes up. You would, if you're in the classroom, you're going to put this up on your projector. So this will be your projection screen. And then you'll have, you can either pull this up on a separate screen on your desktop. So you can extend your desktop and project on your projector while you keep the presentation, the teacher dashboard up on your laptop screen, or you can pull this up actually on a separate, on the Pear Deck app on your iPad or something and present from there as well. So whatever I click, that's what the students see. They can, on their joinpd.com, that's what they're going to see. So I'm going to pull up the student view so I can also show you that. Joinpd.com, and my code, I'll show you this. So this is from a student's view. The code is NSLLW. I'm going to join as this student. And so the student, and it gives you a little warm up. So now the student sees the slide, but the student can select this here. Whether you, so this is a drag icon one. The students will be able to pull it back and forth to see how they want to respond. They can drag it anywhere on the slide. So drag this dot to indicate whether you would agree or disagree. This presentation has been helpful so far. I'm going to leave mine right in the middle because that's not for me to say, but that is what the student will be able to do. If you want to go ahead and respond, you can for the 4 or 3 students that are in. All right. So great. We have, it's been helpful, and then I can lock screen. Actually, let me pull this on here. I can show responses to everyone. So now on your on my presentation screen, you can see all the responses together. If I go to lock screen, that stops you from being able to respond anymore. So this is what they'll see. Your teacher has locked responses for this slide. They can still see their answer, but they can't drag it around anymore. So now that question is done. They had a timer, and it's done. So now I can hide the responses from the presentation screen again, and I'm going to go on to the next slide. So that's a drag. That's an example of a drag question. So the next one is draw or type 2 things you already know about today's topic. So in this one, the students will now be able to draw, or they can use text. So for the students that aren't into drawing, or you want them to type, I can type, I knew about sweets. And then or if I want to draw, I can grab my pencil and draw a big G for Google. So this gives students a way to, you can check comprehension, you can get student responses. It's really, however you want to use it, it's amazing. And it's not just their pre-made slides, because these slides were pre-made by Pear Deck, and I can pull them into my slideshow. So I go to the templates, I say I want a comprehension, or I want a higher level on Bloom's taxonomy. I want to know a higher level question here. I want them to really think about this. And it will pull in question types and slides that they've already made. So the only thing I did was click the template type, and it imported into my slide, and I placed it where I wanted it. So that is another type of response that you can give them. Here's an example of another template. Oh yeah, I can show the responses up for you. So I knew about assignments. Someone put a dot here. I can go through and see the different ones that people drew. I knew about Google Classroom. and these don't have names attached to them on the screen. I can see who responded on my teacher dashboard here, but other people, the students, when I put the answers up there, they're not revealed as to who said what. So again, I'm going to go to the next screen. Think of a question your classmates might have. So this is one of those things where different types of questions get asked here. So I see the questions coming in live. When will we go to school? I know that's what everybody's wondering. So you can see them coming in live. And again, this is something that you can show the responses. Now, when I pull this up, what this does is for the classroom screen, or the screen that I'm presenting on Meet, it would show all of the responses that have come in so far. For the student, they see this. So they see the question slide here, and they also have the ability to answer. So they can still add their answer while other students' questions are being put up on the screen. So it really is there's a lot of different facets to it between the student side and the teachers and the projector side and the teacher dashboard. So that is, I can hide the responses. We'll go back to the question. You can, and again, like I said, you can use their templates, but you can also pull up your own. So I just copied one of the slides that I have in this presentation showing some of my utility belts. And this question is a drawing question. So I'm going to instruct you to draw a circle or color in some of the things that you have in your utility belt as well. So now this is the student view, and they can select a color. And I'm on an apple right now. And yeah, I've been to Google Fest too. And I use blooms, and we're learning about Pear Deck right now. So you can see, so the student can give that kind of indication on your slide. You created this, and they're able to draw on this as well. So it's not just Pear Deck's pre-made slides. Now on your presentation, this is the projector view again. On that one, I can again show the responses, and it will show the different student responses here. So some people have used MobyMax, some have used Pear Deck. Nothing here yet. So I can see each one and go through them. Now, this is I can see all of them at once. If I want to show multiple responses, I can show here and see them as a group, or I can do the overlaid layout. So if you want to see all of the students' responses at once to give a collective view, I can press this, and now I see everyone's marking on the slide at once. So I see my red marks here. I see these black ones here, the green dot here, and you could tell each student to use a different color so that you can see all of that. You could have them all draw a picture of an elephant and then overlay it and see how they compare. There's just, there's a lot of different ways that you can use this tool to collect student assessment, student understanding, comprehension checks, just questions, deeper level thinking, all of that. All right, so you can do, this is a make connections. How are these two concepts connected? There is, so how is Google Slides and Pear Deck? So you could respond on this and show, how are Google Slides and Pear Deck connected? What are their things they have in common? How do they go together? How do they work well together? And so on. And just different ways to collect. These are just some examples of templates that they give. This was put in there for me. I didn't have to create this slide. The only thing I did was I added this. Google Classroom is ... So draw or type your thoughts on this topic in one head, and draw or type the point of view of a different person on the other. So this gives them that critical thinking of other people's viewpoints. What might someone else think about this topic? And then they can get into persuasive essays or things like that. So these are just some examples. How might we use Pear Deck in our own lessons, particularly with distance learning? So this is just a summative. I want to know, out of Pear Deck, how would you integrate this into your lessons? And again, if you have all of your students in there, they can tell you their response for the class. All right, let's go ahead and do questions. I can add. Let's see, I think we have some questions in the chat or comments. Yes, I can put out a link to the recorded presentation for sure. And you have to pay in advance for an advanced feature version for the overlay and see which student answered. Yes, this is the premium edition. There are some extra features like the seeing the students that answered and adding your own overlay. That is in the premium version. There is a link, or there will be a link in Classroom, and again, I'll send that out for people that aren't able to. That is in here, Pear Deck. So under the Pear Deck topic in Google Classroom, this link is for 3 months of premium Pear Deck, and you'll be able to try out the extra features and see them. And then I can't remember which features you lose with going back to basic, but you still have some of the same functionality, just not all of the nice features. Like, again, I think you're right. I think you can't see which students answered the questions and that type of thing. All right, Google has a B Internet Smart lesson using Pear Deck. That's awesome. And if you do this in the student guided mode, remember when I started the Pear Deck, it asked me if I wanted to do a student guided, student paced or a teacher paced. If you do the student paced version, the student paced version allows the students to click through the slides on their own, and they can still answer the questions. So if you want the students to interact with the lesson, they can go on, they can draw their answers, type their answers, slide their icons, and then move on to the next slide. And so you can have, and then it'll show you the records of what each student, what their experience with the lesson was. And that is on the, so I go to Pear Deck. Well, I don't have any student, I just realized I didn't have any student Pear Decks, but if I go to the sessions here, I can see my session, and there would be, I believe, the student sessions in here as well. All right. Any other questions on Pear Deck? And let me see if I can find my, so we can have questions here. The slides, I believe, are closed. Slides, Pear Deck. Okay. I'm going to close the Pear Deck session now and go back to just Google Slides. So when you close the session, where is it? All right, when you close the session, I'm going to click End here. And I can save this session to find and review the student responses. And again, I believe this is a premium. This one is a premium feature. Published takeaways. And I need to publish takeaways. So it's going to create a Google Doc for each student in my session, and then it's going to share it with the students so that you can give your takeaways from the session. That's not a feature that I used before, but I'm going to have it send out that doc, and then I can share this to Classroom. And I'm going to share it to the whole. Save Your Sanity. And I'm going to create material and go. All right. Pair deck takeaway. And this will be an assignment that now you can respond to on Google Classroom. All right, so I'm going to return home, and then this session will be archived in my Pear Deck account here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and present again with the Q&A teacher version up. Continue recent. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the slides question and answer session there. I'm gonna go ahead and skip down to Blooms. Okay, so Blooms is a, let me just check our time. Oh, we are actually almost out of time here. So I will wrap up this section here. I'll keep going for a little bit if anybody wants to stay on, but I know that it's gotten late. We've covered most of the main topics. What I was going to still cover was I was going to go over Blooms, LastPass. That's a password manager. I was going to just tell you about GoGuardian really quickly. Give you some people that I follow in the EdTech community that have helped me kind of find some tools for my utility belt. And then there were some elementary tools like MobyMax and ReadWorks that I was going to go over. So you're welcome to stay if you like. I'm going to keep going. But thank you all for joining and learning with me. I learn more every time I do one of these. So I'm glad to have you guys here to continue the journey in learning. So I'll keep going with Blooms. And if you have questions, again, put them in there. You can email me. I'll put my email in the chat if you don't have it already. It's daniel@teachtech2.com. And you can email me questions there. And there are also links for the other things. I'll release those in the classroom. So that is my classroom screen timer. This was one of the things. I'd set a timer for 2 hours when we began, so that's telling me that our session is over. So if you have, if you want to know some of the social media links or blog links for some of the people that I follow, these are all going to be here in the classroom, posted as a material. And then websites and blogs. Posting that, so you'll have access to all this. I'm not going to close this classroom for a while, so if you want to come back and review, comment, and ask questions, you can do that in this classroom here. All right, so moving on to Blooms. Let's pull back up. Here we go. All right, so moving on to Blooms. Blooms is a classroom management app, and I can't say enough about the features that they have on Blooms. It is a student portfolio, so they can post and publish student work. It's a parent communication app, so the parents can follow their work, or you can put out requests for, I don't know, where you're having a party. Who wants to bring cups? Who wants to bring plates? You can put even stuff like that in there. And the thing that I used it for the most was the behavior management. So you can go in, it's kind of like a classroom economy, and you can give students points. So the best way to show you this is to just show you. I'm going to pull in Blooms, and this is the Blooms app here. So you can pull this up on your phone. They have an app, and it works really, really well. You can also pull it up on your web browser. So I'm going to show you the web browser version. This is a demo class that if you get an account and you want to just play around with it to see the features, you can use a demo class. It shows right here. So this is your feed. You can post updates here. It's kind of like a Facebook page, but it's private, just between you and the parents that you invited. So it's more like a Facebook group, I guess, in that matter. Yeah, it's a little bit like Class Dojo. I haven't used Class Dojo actually, but I think this is similar from the things that I've heard about it. So you can have individual student portfolios here. You can do signups. This is what I was talking about, field trip to the zoo. So I need drivers. So I need for 2 drivers. So one of 3 spots. Oh, sorry, now there's 2 drivers. I needed 3 before. So one of these, so now I need still 2 people. Here I can ask for art docents for this, and I can have people sign up for these dates. So there's the 6th, the 2nd, the July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd, and you can sign up for one of those spots, or the parents can. The thing that I used the most, like I said, was the behavior section. So this was kind of like a classroom economy for me. Students, you could add their points in here. I've chosen pots. It's like Bloom, since it's Bloom's, named after Bloom's taxonomy, but you can actually have flowers that bloom as they get points. And it's actually double added my students. I was having trouble adding students, and so I have multiples now. When you select their name, you can add good points. So these are things you want to give them points for. You can give them points for caring. And now that shows up on here, and you can see that their flower, well, maybe you can't see, it's a little bit small. Let me zoom in here. So now her flower has started to sprout here. And back to 100%. You can also go in and give points for negative behavior. So, and you can leave notes here as well. So the parents, if you set it up for the parents to be able to see them, they'll get a report about their students' behavior throughout the day. So had a spotless desk at end of day. So if you're trying to promote certain behavior, hey, they had a trouble cleaning their desk up, but now at the end of the day, they're making sure it's clean because they want to get that reward. I set mine at 25, and whenever a student would hit 25, I'd have a big ceremony, and I had special rewards that they would get, that they would choose from for blooming. You can also track negative behavior on here. So if you want to, things that need work, disruptive, harming others, messy area. Oh, well, you had a messy area today. We're working on that, and you didn't clean up today. So pencil shavings everywhere. Now, this is a note for me. It's for the student, and it is also for the parent, and they can see that. So now they'll know why that's gone down, and their points has gone down. You can set it so that negative points, well, no, the negative points go down. You can set 0 points. So if you want to just track something, you can create things that are 0 points. So under Edit Awards, you can create a new one, and you can choose the sticker. You can choose what it looks like. And you can do 0 points. You can add more than 1 point at a time. However you want to customize this, you can make it a negative point, and add that to your classroom options for your Bloom's class. But yeah, this was a really great way to keep track of behavior. I had the app on my phone, and I would just go through and I could just pull it up at any time during the class. Will students see stickers? If you give them a class account. So this one is set up as a middle school, high school class, and they can use these student codes to sign in. the parents can see these. What I would do for my elementary class, because I didn't have them sign up for accounts, what I would do is I would just show this screen up on the board. I have to go back to my feed. I would just put this screen up on the board periodically, or at one point I had a screen that was dedicated to this, and so it would show all the time, and they could see where they were on the they could see where they were in their Bloom progress. Most of the students, though, they just knew. Like, I would add a point to someone, and they knew not only their own scores, they were keeping track of each other's. I would add one to Henry, and Ada would be like, "Oh, Henry's at 24. He's almost going to Bloom. Good job, Henry." And I'm like, "How do you know his point total so well?" And they just kept track of it because they were really interested in blooming. So you just you make it an event. You can create teams, so the teams can earn points. You can also take attendance. So if you give an award to the entire class at once, those students that are not present, they won't get that point that day. And you can mark all present, all absent. You can mark tardy if you want. So I use this. Our attendance system was not very user-friendly at first. So I actually used this to keep attendance. And then once I sat down and could actually mess with the attendance program, I was able to copy these over. So this was a quick one. I could do it on my phone and just quickly take attendance. So that was another feature that I used this for. Not really meant for it, but it is on there for the fact that you want to be able to give students awards, but don't give it to ones that are gone. You can create a class goal. So when the class as a total reaches a certain point level, they, 100, 500, whatever, they get, and this one shows a pizza party or whatever. You don't have to set a title, but you can set the goal, and then they can see the progress moving across for the whole class. So it works as individual trackers, but it also works as a classroom reward tracker. You can quick message parents or groups. There's so much here. It's hard to cover it all in a short time, but you can put photos for parents to see, organize them in albums, put documents here. If you go to each student right here, if I go to Ada Lovelace and click her name, I can go through and see all the awards that she's earned. I can send a message to her parents if I've added parents. I can go see her timeline, and I should be able to, here we go, portfolios. So if I go in here, I can add work for her. Oh, it's not showing up right now, but I should be able to add portfolio work. And if the students are able to sign into their own classes, they can add their own into their account as well. Are there any comments or questions about Blooms? Pull up. All right, I'm going to move on to just some useful apps. LastPass, just really quickly, is a password manager. I use it, and it saves my sanity like you wouldn't believe. You sign up for LastPass, lastpass.com. You create your account, and I'm going to open my vault for you here. You can see I have my accounts here in different categories, so you can create folders for them. And this just shows you all the items that we have. And if I go into this password here, I can edit it, and it will show you the name of, you can name it whatever you want. This is the URL that you would go to sign in. Your username, the site password, you can view the password and then copy it. and you can put it in the folders. So I just have 2 folders right now, Google accounts and samples, but you can organize them for school or classroom or however you want to do it to keep your passwords more organized. And then when you go to that site, it's going to autofill that for you. It's going to put your username and your password in, and you won't have to go remember it. You can actually generate, let's see, oh, this is password history. You can see all your password history. I'm looking for, there should be a generate password. Or maybe that's when you create a new one. And maybe it's just on the app. I can actually generate a new password, and it'll be a random string of numbers and letters. So if you want really secure passwords, you can generate them in here. LastPass will remember them for you, so you don't have to remember, you know, x17-9_43xyz. You just have that password stored in LastPass, and you want to use a really strong password for your LastPass password, because again, it's protecting all of your passwords, but it's the only one you're going to have to remember. So it can be, I took my dog Fido to the store for a walk on January 7th, 2012, exclamation mark. And that is your LastPass password. But I keep mine saved on here so that I don't have to enter it all the time. And if I do need to enter it, it's that one password that I enter that I remember. You know, if you have a hard time remembering them, you can write it down. Just remember, if anybody sees that piece of paper where you wrote it down, they have all of your passwords then. But that one password holds all your passwords. So now if I go to Bloom's and I am logged out, let me sign out here, and I want to log in again. All right, so if I click sign in, it automatically fills my password, and that's actually from Google. I can come up here, and if it's not filling my password for some reason, I click the extension that I installed, and it already pulls up blooms.net because it knows I'm at that website. And I'm going to copy the password because this is actually the wrong password that Google has, and I'm going to paste it in here. Some sites will have a, it doesn't show it here, but LastPass will actually show an icon here. Bloom's site doesn't allow it. If I click this and I click that password, I can click fill, and it'll actually fill the username and the password. So I'm going to put nothing here and nothing here. If I click here and I click fill, now it fills my username and password, and I can just sign in. So that is, yeah, sure, update that password. So this is a password manager that I use for everything. Anytime I do EdTech consulting with a new school, I create a new LastPass account for them. Yes, it does work on mobile phones. An iPhone has actually made it so that you can fill your passwords right from typing in. So it'll give you the iCloud keychain. I'm sure it works. Actually, a lot of these work better on Android than on iOS. But you can fill your passwords right from your phone. I actually have the app on my watch. I can actually pull up passwords from my Vault on my Apple Watch if I need to for whatever reason, and use those off of there. So it does go across devices, across logins. I use it on my phone. I use it on my computer. And I've created different accounts for each school that I consult with so that if they ever need someone else to take over, their IT admin, that they say, okay, we have all the information we need. Can you send over those admin passwords that you've been using for Google Classroom and this and that? I can send them the that account, or I can send them the password list from that, and it's all kept separate for each one. So it's a really great tool to use for all of your classroom apps. You know, you might be signing into Google Classroom and Bloom's and ReadWorks and, you know, who knows what else, GoGuardian. Some of these have single sign-ons where you just sign into your Google account, but others don't. You need an individual password for each one. And so this saves you from losing them. It saves you time in the classroom instead of fumbling for a password. And it's just a time saver. So that is LastPass. They do have a premium version, but you really, honestly, you don't need it unless you're trying to share passwords between people or something like that. That's the only thing that the premium's really for, because it works on your phone, it works on your watch, it works on your browser, all without having the premium. So it's a great app to use. Are there any questions about that? Okay. GoGuardian, I'm not going to pull it up and demo it, but if you can get your school to use GoGuardian, I highly recommend it. GoGuardian is a student web filtering and monitoring system. So it actually will, and I haven't tried it with like Windows machines or anything like that, but if they have a school domain managed account, and definitely a school domain managed Chromebook. If you don't have a Chromebook, I think that's okay. They've added some functionality recently that it should be actually allowing for student browser activity if they're signed into their student account. But for sure, if you have the Chromebooks, you can manage it and put GoGuardian on there. And what it does is it filters all their content. It gives you smart alerts for if it looks like they're accessing something inappropriate, or it has a self-harm alert. So if it looks like they're searching for suicide or self-harm keywords, it'll actually alert an administrator or a teacher that you set up. It filters categories. It filters YouTube. So I can actually take the comment section or the recommended videos section off the side of the YouTube video, and it will filter all that out and just give them the video. It'll filter categories. So I don't want them, looking up Fortnite. So I take out the gaming section and just leave the education one, and they'll be able to go to that. I can filter it by channel. I can filter it by video. I can filter just unlimited customization of what your students are and are not allowed to access. And you don't have to do a whole lot of individual customization because they have categories that it will allow them to, it has categories that will allow them to choose from. So it's just a really great tool. And then if you have the managed Chromebooks, it allows you to, if you have the managed Chromebooks, it allows you to see what's on their screen. It's not exactly real time. It takes a screenshot every 10 to 30 seconds, but it gives you an idea of where they are. And it does show you what web pages they've been at. And you're able to close their web pages down. So let's say they're getting onto a site that they're allowed to get on, but just not right now. You can actually just close that tab and it takes them out of it. You can push tabs to them through it, just like with the Share to Classroom extension on Chrome. You can send messages to them through it. You can lock their Chromebook down or lock their browser down so that they're not able to work until you're ready for them to start their assignment, whatever, so that they're not distracted by things. Just a lot of really great features. You can set scenes. So let's say it's math class and they only need to access, Khan Academy and Mathagon. And so you just put those two that are allowed and everything else is blocked. And so they can have a focused class period. You can put it so that everything's allowed, but certain things are blocked. So during this time, I know you guys like to get on, coolmathgames.com, but we're going to take that out for now. You can still access other websites. It's not completely locked down, but the things that I know will distract you, those things are taken out. So it gives you whitelist, blacklist capabilities that you can customize per classroom, per scene, whatever. And it's just a really great tool. So that's GoGuardian. That is, and Classroom Screen. Classroomscreen.com. That is this right here. And this is a digital dashboard for your classroom. This is another cool tool that you can use. I'm going to put it in full screen mode here. So you can pick the backgrounds. It doesn't have to look like this. You can make the background whatever you want. You can pull out these. This was the timer that went off when my session was over. I set it. This is something you could put up on a screen in your classroom, or you could have it up on Google Meet while students are working. So what happens with these timers? These are each individual little modules that allow you to pull up different features. So along the bottom, you see background, random name, dice, sound level, QR code, draw, text, work symbols, traffic light, timer, stopwatch, clock, and calendar. And all these things can be popped out and added. So let's add a timer like I had up there. You can set the timer for whatever you want. That's the end of the timer. 5-minute timer. You can choose what sound will be played when it's done. So say, okay, class, you have 5 minutes. When you hear this sound, you're done. And you can have that repeat. So let's say you have groups or stations in your classroom. You can actually say, okay, we're going to switch every 5 minutes, and we're going to do that 3 times. So this one right here will allow that timer will go, and it will repeat 5 minutes every 3 times for 5 minutes. But it'll play a sound every time. So, okay, every time you hear the sound, switch stations and move on. So it's really got a lot of great features just even as a timer, but it's more than just a timer. You can set backgrounds color, and you can set the opacity. So it can actually be see-through if you want, or just a little bit red. So you can have different color-coded timers that are running simultaneously like I had. This is a good tool if you need a whiteboard. So I know a lot of people are missing their whiteboards right now. You can pull this up, and you have all these whiteboard tools. Just start drawing right now, different colors. You can choose different sizes, all the way up to 6. It has undo, it has erase. You can erase parts of it, or you can do the undo and take different things off. You can trash the whole thing. You can go full screen. So it has a lot of, it's amazing. They actually have updated it recently to give it a lot more functionality. So it's even better than when I used it in my classroom. You can have these up at the same time. So I'm going to have the whiteboard up here. I can draw a note, note to my students here to have them for reference. And then I can pull something else up. So here's a traffic light. So, and I can resize it, resize the elements. So I'm going to move the traffic light over here. Okay, red means everybody needs to be paying attention to me. Yellow means you can work quietly. Green means you can move around freely. Whatever you want to set your signals as, this can be up on your screen. So I had this as, I would put it up on a separate screen that I had mounted on the wall with a different computer, and I just controlled that to give them the different prompts and timers. So this is really cool. You can do work symbols. So during this time, you need to work in silence. You can whisper to your partner. You can ask your neighbor. So table talk. And then this one is just everybody is able to work together and talk to each other. So it's just a lot of really great tools all in one place. You can pull them all up at the same time. If you don't want to write on the whiteboard, you can bring up a text box. This is sample text, and they can see what you wrote a little bit better. You can put a web link up there for them to have, change the text size, fonts, all of that. And again, these are all able to be on the screen at the same time. You can just have a clock if you want to keep the time available. Yeah, and anything else, any questions about Classroom Screen? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that off of full screen mode. Move that aside. All right, the last two, I put some links in the classroom for tech gurus. I mentioned those at the end of our original time. So those are all there. These are people that I followed to really keep in touch with what's going on in ed tech and classroom technology. So Jenny Majera, she is actually a Google engineer that works with schools. So she's the global head of education impact at Google. She did a keynote at McCall a few years back, and I've followed her ever since. You have Holly Clark with Infused Classroom. This is McCall, their official Twitter. John Sowash, he's a Chromebook expert. Matt Miller, Ditch That Textbook. All sorts of places. Here's my own Teach Tech 2 Twitter on here. Just a lot of great places to learn and continue keeping up on these. So the last two things I want to talk about are elementary. So if you're secondary, you may not be interested. I'm going to talk about MobyMax and readworks.org. They are both more geared toward elementary. But if you want to listen in, you're welcome to. I'm going to post this link so everybody has it. All right. So MobyMax is a student learning and lesson and assessment platform. What they do is, and I don't have an account anymore because I'm not a teacher. I contacted them to see if they'd give me a demo account, but they didn't get back to me in time for this seminar. But they have where is it? They have basically every subject, math, language arts, they have reading comprehension, even writing class, social studies, science, and they have, it's all standards based, connected to the Common Core, and you can go through and assign lessons based on the standards. So that's one way to do it. So if you're teaching a lesson and you want to do some enrichment activities, you can add that. But the place where I find that MobyMax really soars is its student assessments. And so I do this as a, when the students come into the classroom, beginning of the year, I have them do a placement test in each of the subjects. And what it does is it actually goes through and it pinpoints the standards where they're struggling. It's their motto, actually, you can see on the screen in MobyMax: fix learning gaps. It used to be filling in the gaps. And what they would do is, what it does is they take the placement test and it tests them across several, depending on how you set up the test. It sets up, and I can take this off since I'm just talking to you. So what the Google Classroom, or what MobyMax does is it, based on how you set up the test, it finds the places in the standards where they may not be entirely, they may not have a mastery of that specific standard. And so for math, for instance, it'll go through and it'll test them. Like if you say the student is in 3rd grade, I want you to test them from the beginning up till 4th. It'll actually give them a test and it'll check and see where they're at in all of those things. If it notices that they're answering all the kindergarten questions correctly, it'll skip up to 1st grade. Again, it'll fast track them through the things that are that it sees that they're solid in, and then when it gets to the things that they're struggling with, it'll give them a few more to expand and see where their knowledge really is, and then it'll show you the standards where they're struggling, and then it'll automatically assign them lessons based on the places where they have gaps. And so this is a really great enrichment. I taught in multi-grade where I was teaching 2nd through 4th, and I had students that were in 2nd grade that were operating at a 4th grade level, and I had students that were in 4th grade and they were operating at a 2nd or 3rd grade level, and they had just missed some of the material. They were missing some of those foundations. And MobyMax, what it would do is I would go through the material with them. They were technically in 4th grade, so we would study the 4th grade material. But if they needed some help, MobyMax is one of my centers, would allow them to fill in those gaps and catch up in with their peers, so that by the time they got out of 4th grade and into 5th grade, they were solid in the 4th grade stuff that I was teaching them, and they were solid in their foundational stuff that they were maybe missing. So MobyMax really is great for for filling those things in. It's a great supplement to your classroom instruction, a great center if you do centers or rotations. And it's nice because you can set the reports to show the parents, hey, this is where your student started. This is where they're at now. This is how fast they're progressing through these standards. These are the areas where they need to work on specifically, and you can actually print off the standards and what those standards actually mean and what they entail. So it's just a really comprehensive system that just covers really it covers grammar, it covers reading comprehension, it covers conventions of writing, social studies standards, science standards. It's got a pretty robust system. I used it mostly for grammar and grammar, reading, and math, but you can use it for those other things as well. Are there any questions about Moby Max, either in the chat or on the slides Q&A? All right. And if you want to unmute your mic and you can ask the question verbally, that's fine too. Nobody has really done that during this presentation, but you're welcome to. All right. The last thing I'm going to talk about is readworks.org. And readworks.org is a free reading program on readworks.org, and it allows you to it connects with Google Classroom, and you're able to select reading passages for your class and assign it in the Google Classroom. Now, what's great about it is it also has comprehension questions that go along with it. It has step-up reading. So if you have various reading levels in your class and you need passages that are on the same topic, but they're not necessarily at the same level, it has those that you can set them for your learners based on their level. Readworks.org goes up to, I believe it's 8th grade, unless they've added more. It also goes based on Lexile, and a couple other scores. So you're able to select the passages based on Lexile level, grade level, topic. Oh, it goes up to 12. Okay, great, thank you. They've even added. So thank you, Jody. So it goes up to 12th grade now. So you can, based on grade level, Lexile, you can pick based on content filter. I don't have an account now because I don't have, well, I don't think I have, I don't have access anymore. But it's only for teachers. But you can assign the comprehension questions. They have multiple choice, they have short answer, and it will automatically grade those as well, the multiple choice. And then you could import that into Google Classroom as well. So it works with it works well with that. You can assign again, just like with assignments, you can assign it to specific students. So I was able to assign it based on their reading level. I had an ESL student that I was able to assign him passages with extra help specifically intended for ESL students. I had students that were struggling readers, and I was able to assign them specifically ones that gave them the audio version of the passage, so they were able to listen to it while they read it. And you can assign different vocabulary and comprehension questions just to individual students if you want. And again, I made reading groups on ReadWorks, and it was great because the assignments show up in Google Classroom automatically. I don't have to create a separate assignment in Google Classroom and then put a link to assignment. It just automatically puts it there assigns it to the students who I told ReadWorks to give it to, and then grades it and returns it. So really great program if you're looking for some reading enrichment. All right, well, there are lots of tools that I could give you. These are the ones that I prepared for this presentation. If you have any questions, we can just open it up for general questions altogether. If not, I will send out an email with the recording to all the ones that you registered with. If you want a different email address, if you want me to send it to a different email address, again, just email me at daniel@teachtech2.com, and then I'll let me know where you want me to send it. I'll send you the slideshow and all that. Yeah, Articles of the Day was great. They actually have packages that you can set up where it's a whole series of reading. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, Jody. Yeah, it's a lot of great great features that you can use to really enhance reading comprehension, reading teaching, critical thinking, all of that. All right. If there are no other questions, I will go ahead and just say thank you all. Thank you for coming and being a part of this. And again, I hope to hear from you with questions or anything else that you might want to share. So thank you so much, and have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right.